Right, well here we are in the Cardiff West constituency office, and it's Christmas time. Thanks to all the constituents who've sent us Christmas cards, it's much appreciated. And I'm here in the office I share with my colleague in the Assembly, Rhodri, and we are well, just discussing how 2010's gone and what our hopes are for 2011. Rhodri, what do you think about 2010? How's that gone from the point of view of Cardiff West, do you think?
Well, pretty well for Cardiff West, but not very well for Great Britain, obviously, because the big thing was the general election defeat, which had a particular sort of family edge for me, as Julie lost her seat by cursed 194 votes in Cardiff North, but that's democracy for you. So it's been a tough year in that sense, but mostly you think of the country and, you know, have the Conservative Lib Dem alliance got it right on taking so much money out of demand in the economy through the public expenditure cuts? What's the impact of that going to be on Cardiff West? What's the impact going to be on Cardiff? What's the impact going to be on Wales? What's the impact going to be on Britain? And the potential double dip. Are they ready? Have they got a plan B? Or are they just fixed on this idea that cutting public expenditure is good for private expenditure? Well, you know, we all have our doubts about that.
Well, I mean, I think Rhodri's, you know, I think you're right, Rhodri, that in 2011 I think we'll really start seeing some of the impact of what the government's done here in Cardiff West, because certainly I think we're going to have people who've been in work, perhaps working in a local authority or maybe in the construction industry, whatever it is, being affected by the cuts that are coming along and that haven't really hit us yet. We're going to have the increase in VAT now coming up on New Year's Day. It might have already happened by the time you watch this, which is going to have an impact as well. And there are other changes that impact on our constituents. You know, 40% of those people who get some help with their rent in housing benefit are actually in jobs. They're not just people who are out of work. And I know from the figures I've seen that for someone in a one-bedroom flat who gets help with their rent in Cardiff, that could cost them over £500 a year. And these are for people who are not earning or receiving a great deal of money. On the positive side, though, perhaps we should, you know, we know there's some bleak things. We've got big elections coming up in 2011 for the Welsh Assembly, and as well as a referendum on powers for the Welsh Assembly. I think it's a chance perhaps for people in Cardiff West to take the opportunity to A, vote for a little bit of insurance against some of the things that the government is doing at Westminster through giving a bit more power to the Welsh Assembly, and B, hopefully returning a new Labour member in May 2011 for Cardiff West in Mark Drakeford. And of course, Rhodri, that means you'll be standing down from the Assembly in May, of course.
Yes, I'm starting, or about to start, on January the 1st, my last year in public office after what will be 24 years, from 1987 to 2011. It'll be exactly 24 years in public life, either as an MP or as an Assembly member. But I'm enormously comforted by the fact that I hope to be handing over the Cardiff West Labour ship of state in very good order to Mark Drakeford. I can't think of a better qualified candidate to fulfil the role, and he has lived in the constituency since, well, before 1985. I know that because I know he got elected first as a councillor for Riverside on the old South Glamorgan County Council in 1985, because that was when Julie got elected first as well as a councillor in the Macintosh ward in the Plasnewydd area of Cardiff, in the Cardiff Central constituency. So he's been around in public life and living in and learning about everything to do with Riverside, Ely and all the other parts of Cardiff West, really, for the past 25 years. So he's a very, very experienced person, and I'm confident that he'll do a job, you know, well, far better than I could, really. I think he's an immensely knowledgeable person, and I'll be pleased to have that baton in my hand, and come May the 4th or whatever it is, slap it into his hand. It won't fall onto the ground, and people will certainly not notice any deterioration in the quality and calibre of service that they'll get as a constituency Labour Assembly member for Cardiff West in those elections.
What about yourself, Rhodri? Are you looking? We don't need to worry too much about the phone phones, because we're lucky enough we've got some people who can answer the phone here in the office, and if you do need to get in touch with us, it's 02920223207, and as you've heard, someone will answer in the office. But I was just wondering, Rhodri, what your you know, are you looking forward to retirement? Are you going to be active at all in public life after May? Chance to give the Cardiff West constituents an exclusive on your future plans?
Well, you know, it's the left-hand side of the brain. That's really what's getting me excited, getting a better balance into my life. You know, you give up a lot of hobbies when you become an MP or an assembly member, especially if you become a minister or a first minister, but you just don't have time for any hobbies. So I'm looking forward to getting the mallet and the chisel into my hands and a big piece of wood and trying to make or create something, you know, a piece of garden furniture or whatever, as long as it doesn't have right angles in it, and getting the chainsaw in my hand and doing things of that nature, trying to create something permanent that you use your hand, your eye and your brain sort of together, because it's one of these interesting things about balance in your life, work-life balance, you know, and obviously that lack of hobbies or hobbies you get squeezed out really when you're a minister. I'm sure Kevin's found this as well. It's really difficult to keep up hobbies, although Kevin I think has managed to keep up his music. In fact, I think you do your music quite a bit now, but I've missed, you know, wood carving. I want to learn a musical instrument actually. I might take lessons off you.
Well, if you want to learn the guitar, I could probably help you a little bit with that. Have you got, I mean, really the good thing about music, it's a wonderful therapy at the end of a busy day. You can always sit down, pick up a guitar, or if you play a little piano, as I do badly, and it's a wonderful way to relax after a hard day's work. And if you're lucky enough sometimes, as I've been able to integrate it a little bit into to what I do, then it's a good thing. But everybody, I think, needs something that it gets them out of their job from time to time and to refresh the brain and so on. So I think it'd be a good thing in retirement, a musical instrument, keep you active and get your creative side going.
Well, I haven't decided yet whether the guitar or the piano, because I've got a piano, I need a tuning, but if you could have an hour, you know, every morning in the piano and a lesson once a week, or the guitar, because you can take the guitar with you everywhere you go. So the guitar's got big advantages in portability. On the other hand, people often say, oh no, it's got to be the piano, because you learn the basics of all music by doing the piano. So I don't know. Then somebody else told me, don't bother with the guitar or the piano, get the trumpet.
What I would say is that the trumpet's a great instrument, but you've got to think about your family a little bit. I live out in the countryside. You don't have to worry about the neighbours too much, but I think in your case, Rhodri, but you know, it's quite a loud instrument, and also it can be played solo, obviously. But the great thing about the piano or the guitar is you can sort of play something quite quickly and you know, do something that sounds reasonably good to other people quite quickly. With a trumpet and the violin, perhaps takes a little bit more time. But I think my New Year's resolution really in 2011, I think I've just noticed myself starting to put a few pounds around the middle. So I'm going to try and emulate you, Rhodri, and after you had your heart scare a couple of years back, and perhaps walk up the stairs a bit more, eat a bit more healthily, and perhaps try and shed a few pounds around the middle during 2011. Whether I'll succeed or not, we'll see. But any last words for the constituents as we think about the end of 2010 and the beginning of 2011?
Well, I think the other thing, of course, is the 2010, the way things are going now, is going to be the last time that Cardiff West will be fought as a parliamentary constituency, because the Conservatives are very determined to reduce the number of seats in Wales, and you know, they've taken the Boundary Commission by the scruff of the neck and told it to ignore all community ties, ignore all natural boundaries like rivers or big railway embankments or whatever. So we've got a Cardiff West MP. We may very well continue to have a Cardiff West AM because they're going to detach the boundaries of Cardiff West for assembly purposes and Cardiff West for parliamentary purposes. But the way it's looking now, Kevin, you might be the last MP ever elected for the proud constituency of Cardiff West, which has survived minor boundary changes, of course. But on the other hand, it might go all together. And we'll finish up with 3 MPs in Cardiff instead of 4. Mind you, when I was a kid, it was 3 MPs, but then the population was a lot smaller. You weren't talking about 345,000. You were talking about 250,000 in the days when you had Cardiff East, Cardiff. There was no Cardiff North then. I think there was a Cardiff East, Cardiff West, and Cardiff South. In the days of Jim Callaghan, George Thomas, and my father's big friend Hilary Marquand in Cardiff East. Anyway, so you could be the last MP. Indeed. What do you think about that?
Well, what I think, it would be a great shame. I hope the name Cardiff West survives in whatever boundaries are drawn for the next parliamentary elections. Certainly, as a constituent, if you live currently in Riverside, in Canton, in Ely, in Llandaff, in Rhodri, Morganstown, in Fairwater, in Craiger, in Caira, in Penturk, Gwaelod y Garth, all those areas, basically anywhere in the current Cardiff West boundaries, get in touch with Rhodri or myself if you've got any issues in 2011 that concern you and that you want to raise with us. And whatever the new boundaries that are drawn up for the parliamentary constituency, that won't come into effect until after 2015. So it's a way off. I do hope that we manage to keep all of those areas within whatever new boundaries are drawn up for Cardiff in a continuing Cardiff West seat, even if it's slightly different shape. But whatever happens in the meantime, Rhodri and myself, Rhodri's successor, hopefully that'll be Mark Drakeford, but whoever you choose as Rhodri's successor after May, I'm sure we'll want to do the same thing to continue serving all the people of all those areas. Whatever the issues are and whatever your opinions are on subjects, we'll do our best to try and help you if you've got a problem that you need. And perhaps I'll give the final word to Rhodri.
And I hope that if I am able to play the trumpet, I'll be able to do that famous sort of little bit of a solo that happens, at Premiership grounds. I'm hoping that at the Cardiff City Stadium, I could be the person doing that root-toot thing that you get this wonderful trumpeter.
The Spanish-Mexican sounding thing.
Yeah, that's right, yes. That when I guess the horse is galloping, when Cardiff are in the Premiership and when Cardiff Blues, if they can overcome the recent Blues, can win the Magners League. And let's look forward to that in 2011.
Yeah.